Good morning, and thank you for joining us for SBB Live. I am your host and the publisher of Seniors Blue Book, Amanda Barton. Really excited today to be joined by Reina Schlager, who is a financial advisor and CPA. How are you today, Reina?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great.
Thank you so much for joining us for the show today. I know that there is a lot going on in the world right now. We're starting to see some things open up. That's great, but it may not be enough with some of these families, whether they're retired or even still working, they're bringing in less money. And it may be tempting to reach into your retirement accounts, but talk to us about why that should be a last resort.
Great. Amanda, I say I'm great, but meanwhile, I have been homebound working from home since March 15th, the Ides of March. And I've heard a lot of people's situations, young and old alike. It is good news that things are reopening, but I know many people still haven't gotten weeks and weeks of unemployment. They're waiting for those checks. Retirees may have been getting letters from some of their investments saying dividends are being reduced or dividends are being suspended altogether. And if you needed those things to live on, you know, that's what's happening right now. So there's really two ways that you can improve your financial situation currently. One is increase income. The other is you lower expenses. So the increasing income, some things are in your control, some things aren't. There's some people who may be a little bit procrastinators and not quick enough to get that unemployment process going. If you have unemployment due and you haven't submitted or applied yet, you know, persevere, get it done. Even if you're back to work, you have back dollars owed to you. There is a $600 weekly extra that was being offered. We're reaching that point where those are going to go away. And unfortunately, in Florida, the maximum per week is $275. That's not a working wage. So I have actually come across a couple of employment situations that are out there that are available to people, especially if you're homebound. I have a niece working at Ace Hardware customer telephone service, and there is actually a Fort Myers local website for hiring. They are probably about an hour to an hour and a half behind if you called for customer service because they just need more telephone people to help them. So there's one example. The other newer example is a new job entirely that's been created by the pandemic, and that's contact tracing. I have a client who out of New York has an application in, and at least up there, they're paying in excess of $50,000 a year for this contact tracing. You call someone, they give you the name to call. You're asking them in the last 24, 48 hours, who have they been in contact with because they've been advised that they have the virus, and so we need to trace that all out. So certainly looking at job sources. The other thing is your own investments. You may have been so busy that you didn't look at the investments you have. Maybe they need some brushing off and revitalizing, or you change from things that were growth that aren't growing right now to income and taking that income. And there's certainly a lot of different investment products besides with that, the bank, that offer guaranteed income streams. And that's, you know, certainly part and parcel to what we do in our practice. But away from the investments, are you, you have a mortgage, and is your rate maybe a little higher than what's going on now? We personally have a home equity line. Last month, the bill came in, interest rate was something like 3.6. And this month it came in at 2.2, which is ridiculously low. We got solicited by the bank that has our mortgage, asking us if we want to reduce that rate, and it was also in the 2+ range. So if you haven't received any notice and you have a mortgage, call your bank and find out, would it pay for you to refinance to a lower interest rate? If you've had that mortgage for a while, your outstanding amount with a new interest rate is potentially going to really lower your monthly payment. So what did I say? You either increase income or you lower expenses. Well, you're going to lower your cash flow out if you can turn a $1,000 mortgage payment to $800. So I'm naming all of these things because I don't want you to touch your IRA, your 401k. So what else can you do? All the junk that's laying around your house that is somebody else's treasure, put it on Craigslist, go to eBay, find out how Etsy works. All of this thing will generate dollars. And even though other people are doing it too, you know, if it's just sitting in your house, if you have 10 items and you can get $100, there's $1,000 that's going to work for you. The other thing that will increase cash flow into your house is take a real hard look at what's coming out of your paycheck if you're still getting one. If you're still contributing to your retirement account, better than taking money out, a first step would be to just stop contributing. And if you stop contributing, that's going to increase your net payroll. So you'll have more money coming in. So there also may be little benefits that don't add up to much. And certainly if you're not in open enrollment, you can't discontinue some things, but you can pick up the phone anytime and call your plan and say, I want to lower how much I'm putting in or stop it temporarily, and you can always start it again. If you are the person who's responsible for managing your own investments and you've seen that the dollars have reduced, now is a good time to go online if you haven't already established an account and look at how your dollars are invested. The market has incredibly been rising, rising, rising. Today, we happen to have a really good jobs report, and we also had a very ironic statement in the news that we are down to only 13 million unemployed. Well, there was a time where that number was 100,000. So to say we're happy with 13 million, you know, tells you the state of the environment. So those things are bubbling up the market. But personally, if there's not a medical development, I really don't see that this rising market, you know, is sustainable. And at some point at the end of June 30, second quarter, we're going to have actual earnings releases, and I'm not sure that they're going to be great. So I'm expecting July, August, September to really be darker days in the market. If number one, you can continue to contribute, you're putting money on like a regular schedule into a down market. So what is the most important thing to do? Buy low, sell high. When you're going into a down market, it's very threatening and scary, but that's what you're supposed to do. Buy in a down market. And then when the market recovers, you'll have that many more shares. So let's get back to IRAs. If all else fails, what has been provided as an opportunity? Well, number one, if you are retired and you don't need your required minimum distributions from IRAs and qualified accounts, number one, you can contact the company or your advisor and stop taking those dollars out. By stopping those payments, you are going to lower this year's tax bill because you're not going to have as much taxable income. But if you do need that money to live, and you need actually more than the required minimum distribution, if you have a 401k, you normally, if your plan allows, can borrow out of that plan. Now they're allowing the amount you can borrow to be as much as $100,000 instead of just the period of time you were normally allowed to pay it back. The IRS is giving you 3 years to manage the tax bill if you keep it. If you pay back along the way and don't pay it all back, what you don't pay back is normally taxable in full in the year that that happens. But the IRS is giving you 3 years, including 2020, to spread the time you have to give it back and the time you have to pay the tax on it. And if you pay the tax next year on a piece, and then you're able to give back in year 2, you do it through amending and refunding. It's part of the tax process. So you can not borrow on an IRA. You can borrow on a 401k. If you have a 401k and you borrow, people sit there and see, well, those interest rates are like 6% to borrow. Isn't that too high? And the answer is, yeah, but who gets that interest? When you repay on a 401k, that interest goes into your account. There's a little administrative fee that the custodian is going to charge you, but all the interest goes to you. So if you're going to borrow anywhere, borrow from the 401k, pay it back. You may have this longer time to pay it back, and the interest goes to you. The IRAs, if you can't borrow though, they're allowing you to take distributions. And again, when I mentioned taking distributions from a 401k, what happens if you're not yet 59 and a half? The IRS says that normally, if you're under 59 and a half and you pull money out of any IRA or 401k as a distribution, you're not only going to be taxed, but you're going to have a 10% penalty on those dollars because you're taking it out too soon. It's meant to be in there until after 59 and a half. So we have this one-time moment that up to $100,000 can be taken out of any qualified account as a distribution, and even if you're under 59 and a half, and you will not have that 10% penalty. So, do you have an advisor? If you don't do this the right way, whether your advisor is a financial advisor or it's your accountant, CPA, who does your taxes, make sure you get the help, professional help you need, so that if you're going to do this, do it the right way. And if you don't dot a certain I and cross a T, and here I'm saying over 3 years, and you don't do it correctly, you might be surprised at what a tax bill you get. So there are requirements. Not just anyone can turn around and take these borrowings. You have to qualify by, number one, if unfortunately you or an immediate family member was actually diagnosed with the virus, you are eligible. Number two, if you didn't get diagnosed, but you have been financially impacted negatively, lost a job, unemployed, furloughed, maybe you are actually a salesperson and nobody's calling because everything's closed down, that's being financially impacted. So again, talk to your accountant to make sure that that accountant who's going to do your taxes feels that they can sign off on that return with what you're calling negative impact. So I think the biggest message I can give you is, who usually gets the best result? Is it the smartest person? Is it the person with the most money? It's actually the person, in my opinion, who has the best advisors surrounding them so they can get done what they want done in the most tax efficient way and correctly, so they get those benefits. So I think I've answered, basically what laws have changed.
Yeah.
You don't have to take the IRA required minimum distribution. You can borrow on your 401k, maybe larger amounts than you could before. You can take money out of your IRAs and 401ks if you're under 59 and a half. And there's a lot of very creative ways to increase your income, lower your expenses, and adjust your cash flow.
And I think probably the most important message that I would like to leave everyone with is, now is the time to speak to a professional advisor, if there ever was one, because the implications of making a rash decision can be pretty strong. So I encourage everyone to reach out to Reina. I will upload her information with this video, and she does do a free consultation. Do you want to talk about the process, Reina?
Yeah, I think it's really important for people to know I'm not the only person in town that will give you free advice. Ask the question, what I go over in that first contact, is not how much money do you have. My question is, what's going on? What's prompting you to call? I will go over what your financial position is with you. And my goal is to see, is there something I can advise or add value to your situation? And not me. Do I need to refer you to someone else, like a mortgage broker who I work with, or an attorney who I work with? Those kinds of things. We're all connected.
Absolutely. We're all in this together. That's for sure. And I know that your advice is very trusted advice. And we just appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your wealth of knowledge with everyone. And thank you for your support of the community and your support of Seniors Blue Book and everything that you're doing to help our friends, family, and neighbors out there, Reina.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I just want everyone to stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll get through this.
Yes, we will. We'll have you back on the show soon. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.